Hey everyone, it's me, Machine Vegan again. I am back to back today because it's a very short chapter, honestly. The 1970s are a short chapter in this book. Remember, we're doing 1001 video games to play before you die. We're going to do Space Invaders today, original release date of 1978. Platform is the arcade, developer is Taito. Genre, shoot 'em up. Everybody knows Space Invaders. Almost everybody's played it too, struggling through wave after deadening wave of planet Earth's least imaginative attackers. Firing at endless wobbling drones who track back and forth, getting you in closer until mankind is reduced to a single turret. Screwing around the bottom of the screen, taking its last few careful pot shots from behind the slowly disintegrating shield. If Pac-Man is about memory and Donkey Kong is all about story, then Space Invaders is fascinated with panic, the unshakable twitchiness that picks up as the last invaders evade your frantic shots, as the speed increases and the nasty little deep space squids get closer and lower until you're within touching distance of their mandibles. The game's controls are simple to the point of being invisible, and the objective so direct that Space Invaders couldn't help but be a classic. It was so successful in Japan that the Ministry of Finance was forced to mint more of the 100 yen coins the arcade machines ate at such staggering quantities. That said, Space Invaders does have a few subtleties in store. From a passing UFO that can give you a much-needed points boost, particularly if you're using one of the handful of well-used methods to predict its arrival, to the matter of locating the best places to aim and fire as you keep ahead of the descending horde. Sparse and monochromatic, Space Invaders is one of those games whose appeal younger generations will struggle to understand. At the time of release, however, there was nothing less than a full-blown phenomenon. Clones such as Galaga would go on to break bold new ground of their own, but with it, Taito's humble mega-hit video game history would most be unrecognizable territory. And so, Space Invaders, a lot of people know Space Invaders. I don't want to say everybody knows Space Invaders, because not everybody knows Space Invaders. You know, everybody is new to video games at one point. This is being brought to you by andoverpatio.co.uk. They do patio stuff, and they happen to just include, I love the little Easter eggs like this, they just happen to include Space Invaders on their website. It is actually a really stable version, so I wanted to bring it as close to the original kind of version as possible. You used to play these in arcade cabinets, and then they moved over to home consoles. So Space Invaders, very easy, very simple. I'm sure everybody has heard of it. This really, really funny Futurama episode of Space Invaders when they're being invaded and Fry has to go ahead and get he drinks like a liter of Coke, and then he's able to try to expel, and he's like, oh, I can never get past the last level because my brother always did it for me. And they're like, maybe you should shoot in between. And then they do he's shooting through his own defenses. How crazy of him. So this is it. It's very straightforward. Very, very easy. Very, very fun game. And again, I mentioned earlier, old games are harder than newer games. That is a fact. I don't care who is going to fight me on that. Older games are harder because you had such a small amount of available memory, as well as a small amount of money to buy more games. So those games needed to be hard. I remember my first experience coming across the passwords in handheld games and in other games. It was password. Password for what? Well, the passwords so that you can go ahead and, since you don't have a save function on some games, you had to use a password to get back to where you were because you couldn't save and you didn't want to just have to replay the entire game. And my first experience with that was Contra, and Contra is so hard. Contra took forever, and I don't think I've ever beat Contra actually. So Space Invaders is an example of something that I think is a difficult-ish game. Very, very straightforward as far as gameplay goes. In this case, you press a space bar. In an arcade version, you press a fire button, and you press a left and right, or you'd toggle a joystick from left to right. And so you can see there's no amount in this version of the game. I'm not actually sure if in the arcade version it was, but if you pressed it faster, more rhythmically, or anything like that, if you shot more projectiles or whatever. But this is the one version that I'm familiar with. There is there are way more updated versions. There are 3D versions, cell phone versions, but the classic aspect of the game and the classic gameplay of the game will kind of never go away, dude. I mean, it's fun. It's very simple. It's very easy. Anyone can really be taught to play it. And I think often I've actually tell, my older brother I have a nephew who's very young. And I always kind of encourage them to have their kids play video games, in a supervised manner, in a supervised amount of time, so they, learn how to modulate their time and everything, because it's very easy to get lost in video games. I think it's really important, actually, for, the modern age, hand-eye coordination, the fact that we're using technology more and more every day, and video games are communal things at this point. You want to talk to your friends at school about, you just got this video game. It's super cool. It's super impressive. And so I think it also teaches hand-eye coordination really well. And I think that these simpler games are great for kids because you don't have to explain anything. If you don't want to talk about aliens, you don't want to talk about shooting and guns and tanks and alien invasions and bloody messes and all these things, it's fine. You're shooting up floating muffins. And the reason you're shooting them is because they're high in fats and calories. I don't know. They're going to give you homework. So I think it's super duper straightforward to be able to do it. And I think that it teaches hand-eye coordination. I think it teaches, I'm not a doctor, but I think it does well with teaching hand-eye coordination, skill, planning. Once you get the hang of the actual controls, then you can go ahead and turn around and actually go ahead and make a move at getting getting a high score. You're showing off to your parents or your sibling or your friend or whatever, like, I got 700 on Space Invaders. What do you got? You want to be able to brag about something every now and again, and be cool. Have fun. So Space Invaders, super simple. The game also you tend to find on most of those 1001 Games emulators. I'm sure it doesn't they are just reskins in many cases, but because this has been around for so long, I don't know if people put copyright claims on those like you buy them at the swap meet at the flea market, the 1001 Game chips and the Raspberry Pis of the classic games playing the different platforms and available items and everything. So very straightforward game and just as fun. And you can use different tips and techniques. The book you read, when I read that page, it said you can predict that the flying saucer was going to come in. And so if you wanted to change, right now I'm actually going left to right, like I'm doing ASDF in order to go ahead and button mash this space bar so I can shoot faster, and I'm doing the triggers left and right. There's skill associated with playing Space Invaders. It is not all just button mash. It's not like when you're playing Mortal Kombat and then your brother's your friend's older brother always can go ahead and just completely get you with the fatalities or babalities or anything like that. You're like, man, how do you know all these things? And just takes some people are just good at it. Sometimes it just takes time in order to be really good at doing those combo moves and being able to know exactly what it is. Ghost of Tsushima right now, I just unlocked a number of additional stances, and it is very cool as you go through the game and you unlock those stances, and you're just kind of cutting through enemies left and right with your katana and your Saito, the little sword. I don't remember what it's called. It's just cool. It's just cool, man. So same thing kind of here, and the simplicity of this actually I think is a huge component of it, without having to have just combos and do this and do that. Like, nope. And in later versions of the game, this is the earlier version of the game. I'm not sure if it's the earliest, but as you can see, it's just green and white. As the game went on, you got these in different colors. They became more intricate, and there's actually a really cool street artist. His name is Invader. He does, actually I don't know if it's a he or she, honestly, but they do art pieces. They are pixelated, and the way they do the pixels is they use, I think it's porcelain tile, and a mixture of epoxy that they then place in kind of random spots. And it's kind of cool. It's like a game of Where's Waldo. When you do see him, you're like, hey, look, an invader. Like, you're just like a public art piece. You're like, whoa, look at that. It's just, I found one in the wild. So there's definitely no question as to why games like these are continuing to be very popular. There's no question as to why these games will continue to be popular. And there's no question as to why and how these games will be kind of forever ingrained in the minds of people who played this game when they were younger. You know, again, another addition to the dream library of I want people to come in to a museum library, whatever the angle I'm going to go for, to where they can play this game on the original kind of arcade cabinets. I do want a whole room of arcade cabinets. There's actually a really cool Airbnb, and I think it's in Colorado, North Carolina, I don't remember exactly, but it is an arcade. It's this huge, it's like it's a 3-story. You get a smallish kind of, it's a nice sleeping quarters, but that's not the point while you're there. It has tens upon tens, maybe 100 arcade cabinets just strewn all around, and you know, Google it or whatever, right? But it has arcade cabinets everywhere so that you can go ahead and enjoy your stay without having to enjoy your stay. A vacation, right? You don't have to go somewhere cool. You know, you can have a staycation, or you can vacation to where you go to a destination, and that's the kind of positive, one of the more positive things that Airbnbs might be able to offer is an experience like that without it having to be a brick and mortar hotel. I still think, you know, Airbnbs have their issues here and there, but that's kind of not, you know, that's not the point. In this case, in this point, that is a really cool kind of thing. And look at that, well, just when you think you're about to go ahead and beat it, you lose again and again. So I can definitely see myself in like $10. $10 times, you know, 4 for the quarters, that's 40 lives, 40 attempts to be like, I'm gonna get my name on this screen. I'm gonna get to the kill screen. Oh, I can only imagine that, right? I remember watching, there's an episode of Chuck where they have to get to the kill screen of like, I can't remember what game it is. It might be Galaga, it might be some asteroids or whatever, but the creator of the game is trying to do it himself, and he's playing Rush, and they're like, oh no, what happened? He's like, if I stop playing, it's gonna blow up, and he eventually ends up getting blown up. But at the end of the episode, you learn that the creator of the game had designed, I think it's Asteroids, had designed the game to the theme of Rush. So the way to get to the kill screen was to listen to that song and attack by the beat. You're basically playing the game with the beat of the song. And so that's how he's able to get to the, he's like, turn the music on, give me the drink, and and Chuck's able to go ahead and save the day yet again. So really, really, really cool scene of something that reminded me of this. So very, very straightforward. I would suggest playing Space Invaders once in your life if you haven't already played it and you don't consider it an instant classic. The round ones, they have these little table machines that are from Japan that actually have all of these classic games on them that are super cool, and you sit down and there's these little monitors with the joysticks and the stools and everything. And I think you can, no, I don't think you can take drinks out there, but well, maybe you might be able to, I'm actually not sure. But you can sit there and you can play Space Invaders kind of, instead of on a stand-up arcade cabinet, sitting down on a little stool, which is, it's still fun. It is still cool. They do a lot of King of Fighters and kind of other fighting games like that where you can play with other people there as well. Very straightforward, guys. Very cool game. Please like, please subscribe, and I hope to keep doing these videos. These are hobbies. Thanks.